It's time to rev your engines. The Syracuse Nationals proudly presents the Cavalcade of Cars, March 22nd through 23rd at the New York State Fairgrounds. The two-day indoor car show features all the classics, plus lifted trucks, Jeeps, motorcycles, and more. Cavalcade of Cars, CNY.com.
Listen, dude, we've been doing a show for 90 minutes.
I had a chance to listen to your last call. We game plan for PJ Hall.
Uncle. I have a list of guys I would never hang out with. Your name is right on the top.
Do you like the worst song bracket we're doing?
It's considerably better than the supplement bracket. Let's start with that.
I won a limbo contest.
Oh, my God.
Fran Brown joining us.
These guys are working their butts off. They expect to see that fan.
You want extra money just because you're North Carolina?
I'm in all right. What an honor for you and Jordan to be next to me.
Every day.
This is Orange Nation.
There's music, there's fun, there's us. It's everything you could want all in one place.
With Infanti and Paulie Scibilia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you with us. Infanti here in Syracuse. Paulie Scibilia on the road in Charlotte in advance of the ACC tournament. We're with you up until 2 o'clock today as usual. Couple guests lined up for you. We do have Mike McAllister on with us on a Monday as usual, coming up at 12:30. 1:30, Jay Alter, play-by-play man for ESPN and the ACC Network. He was a busy man in Syracuse calling women's lacrosse, men's basketball all over the course of the last 3 days. We'll check in with him at 1:30, plus we'll mix in your phone calls throughout at 315-437-7644. What's up, Paulie? How are you today?
Not much, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing
good
well.
Weekend.
It was a lot of wins to talk about with Syracuse between women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, and men's basketball. You made it safely, I see, down to Charlotte?
I did, and it's been rare we've had wins to talk about. Right?
I know.
So this is a good thing. Did you take anything from the Virginia? Did you take anything from the Virginia game?
Do I take anything from the Virginia game? I will say this, and I know, nobody wants to hear this, and, I'm probably going to get some pushback. But, you want your team. Listen, let's preface it with this season obviously was a disaster. Nobody wanted it to go the way that it went. With that being said, fans said they wanted to see improvement. They wanted to see the team playing better. And with seemingly nothing to play for, this team has played its best basketball over the course of the last 5 games or so. Can we agree with that, Paulie? Do you think they've played their best basketball the last hand? And again, the results have not been there. I get that. They're 2-3 in their last 5, but the way they've played, especially in spots in these last 5, I think it's the best basketball they've played, and they capped it off with a win.
Yeah, they are playing their best basketball, but you're judged by your full record.
Of course. I totally get that.
And the other thing is,
I totally get that.
What's torn me lately is how are they getting double-digit leads in every game now? And they've lost a majority of them. Is getting to a double-digit lead the players, and then when they fall behind the coaches, or is it the coaches get them the double-digit leads, and then it's the players when they fall behind? I don't know. It's a very confusing season.
It is a very confusing season. I will say this: we had Matt Park on last week, and I think that how he responded to that question, I thought it was accurate. He said the longer the game goes, I'm paraphrasing here, but the longer the game goes, the more your deficiencies are going to show. So it's easier to play well in spots for 25 minutes or 30 minutes. And then, 40 minutes, over the course of 40 minutes, your deficiencies are going to show. And if the games were longer, as he said, they may have won less games. So, I think they're not as good as they need to be, obviously. And that's, from the coaches to the players on down. And that's why their record is what their record is. But I think that we have seen them play, again, their best basketball at a time when, from the outside looking in, they had nothing to play for. Even on Saturday night, they knew going into the game they were locked into the 14 seed. They were locked into the Florida State game. Seemingly nothing to play for, but they went out and they played pretty well by their standards, and they actually, finished off a game in which they had a double-digit lead, and they finished it off with a double-digit win. do I take a lot from it? Not necessarily, other than that I think they have, and I asked Griff this, we have him on the TV show every week, and I interviewed Griff yesterday because the team was traveling today, and I said, have you found something over the course of these last 5 games that you could carry with you down to Charlotte? And he said, Steve, it's not that we've found anything. That this is like they have been capable of this all season long. It's just for a number of reasons it has not translated into wins and losses, and they have been wildly inconsistent this year. And they are starting to play more consistently. So it's kind of one of those things that again, according to Griff and the coaches, it's been in these guys all year. It's just, now they're starting to find a little consistency at the end of the season. But and nobody wants to hear it, but I do think it's a good sign that they're still playing really hard and playing with a purpose, and they're executing better, if we're being honest, over the course of these last 5 games. And, in terms of the leads, they let some leads, obviously, on the road get away, and you're ultimately judged, as you said, Paulie, by wins and losses. But they were a double-digit favorite at SMU, and if one play goes differently down the stretch, the narrative changes. It didn't, and, this team is what they are, but I think it's a good sign, the way that they're playing with a purpose right now.
Yeah, it's a good sign, but it's just a sign. Does that mean, you drive by a million signs driving from Syracuse to Charlotte? It's a sign, all right. It's too late for the sign. If you miss a sign,
and that's why I say nobody wants to hear it. I get nobody wants to hear it, and me included. The season has been a massive disappointment. But you said, do I take anything from the Virginia game? And I don't know. It's not just the Virginia game. I just kind of the last couple of weeks, I look at it as, to me, that's a good sign, because there are a lot of examples of guys quitting on their coaches, or, collectively the team kind of waving the white flag, and we haven't seen it, with this year's team. So it is what it is, and it's going to be over in the matter of a couple of days here, and then the real work begins to fix this in the offseason. We all know how massively important, how critical this offseason is going to be, and it's all going to start here in a couple of days.
I'm glad you mentioned the whole locker room thing, because Fred has not lost this locker room. And I was going through my social media over the weekend, and someone says, I can't believe Melo is sending his son here, to play for him. The players clearly like this guy. The recruits like him. Everybody seems to like him except for a certain portion of the fan base. And I trust Melo knows what he's doing when it comes to basketball more than some guy on my Twitter feed. And he's got one more shot, and he can't mess up this year or next year. But this year is, I don't know. They were picked 11th, and they finished 14th. They still underperformed even from a horrible position to start, though. So I think it's going to be a tall task, but it's Syracuse. You got to see if they can get back to where they were.
Yeah, and that is obviously the focus of everyone right now is to get back to a certain level. And as John Wildhack said on our show last week, play meaningful games in the month of March, and that is the goal, that is the expectation. And as you said, they get. It feels like, anyway. I mean, we don't want to put words in John Wildhack's mouth, but I think you and I agree that he gets one more crack at this to see if it can look some semblance of what we all expect Syracuse basketball to look like. And you said a faction of the fan base doesn't like him for whatever reason. I think it's the results they don't like, right? And they turned on him awfully quickly, and I think some of that goes back to the way the Jim Boeheim era ended and into Adrian Autry, and the results are not what anybody wants, and he gets one more crack to try to figure it out. But you're right. Guys obviously like to play for him. He's doing really well with high school recruiting. Obviously this team is still fighting hard for him. Can they go out in the portal, get the players that they need, the talent that they need, to make this thing happen? The opponent is Florida State tomorrow, and I'm reminded of the last time Syracuse played Florida State, and that was January 4th in Tallahassee. And that was the only game in conference play this year, Paulie, that they had both Donnie Freeman and J.J. Starling on the floor at the same time.
It
and
was
again, I'm not
JJ's
saying that this whole year's It was his first game back, and it was Donnie's last game before he was out. It was the only time they played with both guys on the floor in ACC competition. So, again, it is a factor that I think we all have to take into account, that their two best players, it played a grand total of one game together in ACC competition. So it's unfortunate across the board how this whole season played out. And, I would say of all the options, and we talked about this on Friday, kind of knowing what some of the options might have been, and there were so many teams bunched up in the bottom of the standings, they really could have played one of a handful of teams. Of all those handful of teams, Paulie, I would say this is the one that Florida State is the opponent I'm least confident that Syracuse is going to beat. I do not think this is a good matchup for them. But if they could get by Florida State, I mean, this is the draw that you would want, right? You avoid Duke. You're on the bottom half of the bracket. I don't think they're getting by Florida State, but it's there is a path for whoever comes through that bottom half of the bracket. Like there is a path for those teams.
They have to punch up in every game, though, Steve, and that's not easy to do. And LA Orange in our chat said the computers predicted Syracuse to be 17-13 this year. I don't know what computers he was looking at. Didn't we see like Ken Palm had him in single figures for wins? And what computer?
Yeah, I remember the various metrics. One computer had him winning 9 games. I know another had him winning 11. I'm not familiar with with whatever one had him at 17, but I remember like around 9 and 11. I remember talking about this in the preseason.
The computers have spoken. It was a Commodore 64, and it spoke directly to him. It told him 17.
Listen, there's a lot of different metrics. I don't doubt that it was out there because there's a lot of different metrics. I'm just saying, I remember you and I talking about, I think Ken Palm had him right around 10 wins at the beginning of the season. And, they got to 13 right now. So it is what it is. And, again, it mercifully comes to an end in the next couple of days, maybe tomorrow night. We'll see. But I think that, the way that they played down the stretch, again, if you're looking for, you said, what do I take, if anything, from the game? I was at least encouraged by that. Not just the Virginia game, but these last 5 games, the way that they have fought and continued to play with a purpose, as I said, that, that's something that, again, that's a positive. That's an encouraging sign going into the offseason. All that really matters, though, is can they win enough games next year? And that's, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, and this is a good group of young guys, too. So that I felt good for them after that. And like last year's team was knuckleheads, is the nice way to put it. And these guys all go out and they try, and they're good teammates. And, they'll rally together and try and do the best they can in this tournament. And we've seen most of the year that their best just isn't enough.
Right. And again, that goes back to, you said, how are they able to build these leads and then not hold on to them? I think that's going back to what Matt Park said at the end of last week. They're just not good enough to consistently finish off games, especially on the road. And we saw that at home it made a little bit of a difference. One thing that stood out to me just from an X's and O's standpoint, the fact that I like that Red continued to pressure them even when they had that comfortable lead in the second half, and it looked like, okay, they're in the clear. Midway through that second half, they still were picking up full court. I liked it. It was almost like sending a message to the team, like, we're not letting our foot off the gas pedal this time around.
Yeah, yes. Again, something he probably should have done in other games, but
right, sure.
Lesson learned. So,
yeah. So maybe they did find a little bit of a little something in these last 5 games. We'll see how they perform tomorrow night. And this tournament, this event has not been kind to either the men or the women. And again, I do think that this is a tough matchup, considering Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, Pitt, some of the other possibilities that they had. To get stuck with Florida State is unfortunate, because it certainly would not be my first pick. I don't think it would be your first pick either. But that's the draw. They put themselves in this position by finishing 14th, and they got to go out and see what they can do. Let's take our first time out. 315-437-7644 is the number if you'd like to get involved. We do have Mike McAllister coming up at 12:30. We are back after this on ESPN Radio.
Syracuse basketball head coach Adrian Autry.
It's an honor to be on the Infanti show. I was just removing the Infanti show. Steve Infanti show.
So I texted you an explanation of what happened.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you told him.
Paulie, I just want you to know that somebody got what appears to be strawberry jelly all over this keyboard in the studio, and there are keys stuck. And this isn't an exaggeration or a joke or anything. I think whoever it was should legitimately be fired.
Patrick Hernandez will be our disco one-hit wonder of the day if P isn't stuck.
Can I ask what happened back here?
Somebody who I don't like, don't associate with, and wish never stepped foot in our studios, but does because of his position of power, spilled a plant all over and didn't clean it up, just like he doesn't clean up his dog's poop when they do that here too.
Will anyone speak to this gentleman?
I certainly won't.
Because, I mean, this is just a mess.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
We'll leave it up to Paulie. Paulie can.
I'm out of
Paulie can
town.
have a word. Well,
Paulie,
you are in a position of authority, though. So
my face looks fat today. I gotta get back to the gym. I look swole, but in the face.
So, bro, Michael, if you think Cody and Josh deal with it a lot, I also share a desk with a bunch of different people, so I don't feel bad.
My eyes are puffy. My cheeks are puffy.
Is the song called "Born to Be Alive"?
Yes. It's a one-hit
Oh, wait a
wonder
minute.
disco.
I remember this one.
Disco
I remember this one
wonder.
for some reason. Why do I remember this?
Because it's a banger.
Have we played it before and it was just like really funny how hokey it is?
Probably.
Lax hidden ball trick was awesome, Phil.
The old hidden ball trick. Oh, I gotta do Comets Insider when I get to my other hotel room. Damn.
You have questions about medic or your 86 then Devo.
Is that the one that's like, 'cause we were born
Yeah.
to be alive? Yeah.
Yeah, you're way off in the tunage, but
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you were.
No, that's
It was
how
like
he was
your
actually
first version
trying
of
to sing it, but he messed up.
It was your first version of Yakety Sax the other day. You eventually got it.
No, I sang it how he was trying to sing it. He messed it up.
.com.
Also, sometimes I think that you you really want me to stick to the correct octave.
I thought you were having a stroke there. You okay?
Me or Steve?
You were like, Steve
Yeah,
doesn't-
I'm trying to edit a podcast while finding music, while running the board, while this, that, the other.
You're a good tasker of Maltese.
I'm well aware, but I appreciate you acknowledging it.
sorry, guys. I was doing something else there during the break.
Yeah, we know. I was
Yeah,
discussing how fat my
I was
face is.
surprised London won, to be honest with you. I was surprised London beat Liverpool, but good for them. They got two really good players.
That kid from West Hill's really good.
Eli
Prince, yeah. Put up 37 the other day. But
Catch
yeah,
our-
the
catch our
Jazar Green
interview with
is
him.
the real deal.
Catch our interview with Eli Prince on Players Only. Damn it!
Royalty.
Now that guy's stuck in my head from a
Is the
couple
desk
weeks
on
ago.
still? Because I can hear it.
I don't know. I'm not
Wait.
out there.
Shut the desk off. Wait, there we go. It's Orange Nation Disco One-Hit Wonders today, Steve. Patrick Hernandez, Born to Be Alive. It's a banger. We're doing one-hit wonders because Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive hit number one today in the 70s sometime. I don't remember when. But how do you feel about disco, Steve?
I think we're going to enjoy this today. It's upbeat. It's fun.
Just like you, upbeat and fun.
Yeah, that's what people describe me as that all the time. Yes. Especially fun, right? I know that you find me very fun.
Yes, you are. You're a barrel of monkeys.
Yeah. All right. Shall we get into some Adrian Autry post-game sound from after the Virginia game?
Yeah, let's hear what he.
All right. So let's. Why don't we start with Jordan? Let's start with the second cut on SU's defensive pressure.
Virginia, no matter what, is a very good offensive team if you let them run their offense. That's a very, very good offense, difficult offense to defend. So, we just wanted to push up and try to make them bounce the ball more the whole game. That's why we extended our pressure, just to kind of make them bounce the ball. They're a very good passing team, a good screening team. So, we just wanted to, make them play, just make them bounce the ball more. That was the biggest thing.
I liked it, Paulie. I liked the fact that even when they were up big, they didn't get conservative. They didn't play passively on defense. They continued to extend full court. And again, was it it wasn't necessarily pressure defense to turn them over. I think it was pressure defense more so to get them out of their game plan and their offensive rhythm. It was something we really haven't seen a ton from Syracuse this season, especially when playing with the lead. And I liked it. I thought it was obviously effective.
It worked. The players listened because I was at their pregame shoot-around, and it was make them dribble. They are a catch-and-shoot team. Make them dribble. And they did. And they held their best scorer. He's had 2 straight games where he struggled, but they must have found something that worked the game before on tape, and it worked for Syracuse yesterday. Or Saturday,
yes.
Sorry.
On Saturday, yeah. Held them to 3 for 15 as a team, shooting from 3, held them to just 20%. Speaking of the three-pointers, we were talking about J.J. Starling attempting 10 three-pointers the previous game, and we said that's too many, and I know that Jordan asked the question on the match game about how many will J.J. attempt. He took 1 three-pointer. And I don't think that was by accident. I think that was absolutely by design, coming off that 1 for 10 shooting performance. He took just 1 3, and even though he only, quote-unquote, finished with 7 points, he did have 5 assists to go along with those 7 points. Adrian Autry afterwards credited JJ with one of his better performances of the season, especially on the defensive end.
Even though he didn't score a lot today, I thought JJ had a really good, solid floor game, 5 assists. Thought defensively it was his best defensive game of the year.
So, it's hard to argue with that, Paulie. And again, I know his numbers don't jump off the page at you, but he played within himself. He didn't force things. He didn't have to force things because other guys were producing. Lucas Taylor made some shots right away, and Syracuse was able to take advantage of some mismatches down low against Virginia's. Lampkin and Davis both had good games as well. So he didn't have to do it by himself. But, the other part of that is he played within himself. He let the game come to him. He didn't try to do too much, and it was effective.
I don't know if he'll be with the Orange next year. We'll find that out in time, but he may need to take the Judah Mintz road, You shoot a three-pointer every once in a while if you're open, just to keep him honest, but you got to get to the rim because you're not knocking him down, and he's got an off season to work on his jumper. So, that it worked this game, and it's hard to pass up the shots he was getting at SMU and Pittsburgh when they blew those big leads because he was wide open. But maybe he's just got to dribble in a couple steps and go to the rim.
But again, sometimes when you're wide open for a reason, right? They're daring you to shoot that. And as you said, you can't give into that temptation, all the time. And I thought he did a much better job picking his spots and, got to the free throw line again, made 5 of 6, which is an improvement for him, finished with 7 points, 5 assists. They did get 12 assists from their starting backcourt. Jaquan Carlos had 7 to go along with JJ's 5. And, let's hear from Adrian Autry now on the play of Jaquan Carlos, which he has improved throughout the season.
I think he's probably, I think he understands, the reads a little bit better, and he's always played hard. I think he's not worrying about his shot. I think he's just really in a good space right now mentally. But he's been good for us, for the last probably 7 or 8 games. He's been really good for us. He steadied the ship, kind of what we wanted.
And when you look at reasons, Paulie, for why this team has played better over the course of, I'm going to say last 5 games, but, Adrian Autry went back to 7 when it comes to Jaquan Carlos. Again, I don't think it's a coincidence that he has gotten better. He struggled to start the season. We know that. And he's steadily improved as the season has progressed to the point now where he's become one of the more reliable players on the floor. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you look at his last 3 games, 7 assists against Virginia, 8 assists against SMU, 9 assists against Virginia Tech. And he had double-digit points against SMU and 9 points against Virginia Tech. When he's able to provide that kind of production, this team is obviously going to be a lot better.
Yeah, I still don't like the way he tries to force the ball into the post sometimes, but he's gotten better, and the offense runs smoother with him in there. And they've had to switch him around a bunch because of JJ's injury. They were trying to go away from him, and they had to go back to him, which had to be tough on him. And he still kept playing, right? That can't be easy on a kid. We're going to go away from you. Oh, wait, that guy got hurt, so now we've got to come back and save us here, buddy. So he's been a good player all year.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly gotten better as the season has progressed. And, defensively, he still struggles at times, but his decision-making has gotten better. He's taken better care of the basketball of late. 5 combined turnovers over the course of the last 3 games to go along with 24 assists, right? I mean, that's a pretty darn good ratio. That's almost 5 to 1. You would absolutely, you would take 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 out of your point guard, but almost 5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio in the last 3 games. So he's certainly gotten better. All right, let's take a time out here. We've got.
Go ahead,
Paul.
address one thing. Something in the chat. It says JJ Starling went from a 5-star to a 3-star in 3 years of college. Can I address something about this? Because I've seen this a lot lately. Also, people are turning on him. Also, like they turned on Autry. If JJ Starling was putting up the numbers he is right now at any other school, people would be losing their minds that Adrian Autry was unable to get him to come to Syracuse. If he was at Virginia Tech, BC, Florida State, anywhere, the same people that are saying he stinks would be like, I can't believe he's not here averaging double figures and, top 10 scoring. It's ridiculous.
100%. I mean, you're 100% right about that. He's averaging 17.5 points per game. Again, I think people are watching every second of every game that he plays, and they're frustrated. Again, this comes back to people are frustrated, obviously, and for good reason, and they need someone to blame. So it must be Adrian's fault. It must be JJ's fault. They can't just say, you know what, they're just not that good this year. It's got to be someone's fault for why this is the case. But you're right, from a scoring standpoint, I mean, he's 7th in the conference right now in scoring. Nobody had the year that they wanted to on this team. I think we would agree with that. I think Eddie Lampkin probably came the closest to it in terms of preseason expectations, given all the double-doubles he's had. And he's been a monster down the stretch of this season. Again, start to finish, maybe didn't have the season that he was hoping for. But, the second half of the year, he's been very good. But I think you can go down the list, and nobody on this team would say, "Yeah, I lived up to my expectations." And I think that is due in part to the team's success. The team struggled, and so it's hard to feel good about your own individual game when the team is 13 and 18.
Correct. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Okay. All right. You feel better now?
Yeah, I feel great.
All right. Now we will take a timeout, and when we return, Mike McAllister will join us from CuseNation.com. We'll get his thoughts on this team, his thoughts on the ACC tournament. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
So So would you say that Kadari Richmond's just a stinky player too because he's still in college? Like I don't get it.
Let's talk about.
He may not be what everybody thought he was, but jeez, he's a good player on a bad team.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking about my thoughts on Von Miller. I am 100% okay with them letting him go.
There's zero chance we would still have Kadari Richmond. He probably would have gone pro if he stayed here and got coached by Boeheim the whole time.
Tuning in. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next week.
Steve, are you and Josh Allen on speaking terms now that you're in the same tax bracket?
Oh, good one.
Thank you. Thank you. High five.
That's funny. I mean, I love it being a Bills fan. The fact they locked him up, I think it's great.
No, I thought that was good on because like the one thing the analysts were like, why do it now? Like, why do we ask this question every year as if every single year like contracts don't go up? Like the NFL's not going to stop making money.
Well,
like,
that's what I was saying.
If they wait 2 years, that contract
could be a really good deal. Yeah. I mean, because you're banking on that he's going to be this for that period of time.
Well, then you can sign a receiver and be like, look, we got this guy for this long.
Right.
Sign a 4-year deal with us and let's ride.
Yeah.
Dude, the Steelers, I saw this morning, I've heard the Giants and Steelers for Aaron Rodgers over the past couple days, too.
I wouldn't hate it. He likes Tomlin.
I think they seem like the type of coach and player who would, in theory, be great together, and then they'd butt heads.
They get along really good, apparently.
I mean, it's easy to get along with somebody well before you have to work with them frequently.
I really am being vain right now. I don't like how fat my face looks.
What's a disco one-hit wonder that you can think of right now?
Oogie, oogie. Till you just can't boogie no more.
Also, I'll give it to you. I think I forgot how the song started. I was going, born. I forgot it was born. Like, I forgot.
You nailed it that time.
Thank you. By Taste of Honey?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
You know, I've got to say, Ring My Bell should be.
Yes, we'll do that. Anita, you going to just do this interview so they'll take me off screen after I break down Boogie Oogie Oogie by Taste of Honey?
Sure, that's fine. Whatever you want. It's your world.
No, it isn't. It's the Stephen Fonte show.
I was going to use that audio, and then Jay was nice, and I was like, I'm not going to be a jerk. I wanted to download the audio and put a version of the open in where it was just the whole thing normal. And then this is Stephen Fonte's radio show in Syracuse.
So we've been called a local radio show by one media outlet, and then the Stephen Fonte show.
Well, I will say this. I'll say this to Jay. I at least appreciate the fact that he tried to properly give us, attribution.
I would appreciate it if I were you.
Opposed to,
I would appreciate it too if he called it the Paulie Scibilia show.
You know what I mean, Paulie. At least he tried to attribute it, opposed to, the other television station in town just being like, yeah, whatever.
He tried. Maybe that speaks to us, Paul, because he's like, what's the most important identifier for, Stephen Fonte. So maybe we need to step it up.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't know who the hell I was.
Let's just turn his mic off.
And 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Welcome back to Orange Nation. We're in Charlotte. Well, I'm in Charlotte for the ACC tournament. Taste of Honey is our one-hit wonder of disco. Boogie Oogie Oogie There's a lot of songs with boogie in it. Do you know that, Steve? What's your favorite boogie song? Boogie Shoes?
Boogie.
I'm your boogie
that's a good
man.
one.
Boogie, oogie, oogie.
Boogie
All right.
Wonderland.
I would have to go with Boogie Shoes.
Okay, good one. All right, I got good news for Mike McAllister. He gets to just deal with you today. I'm gonna go clean up my room and get ready.
It looks like you could just lay down and take a quick nap.
I will.
Your bed's all ready for you. Yeah.
I'm gonna go put ice under my eyes because I look puffy on camera today.
All right, you go do that. Let's bring in our good friend Mike McAllister from QStation.com. Mike, how are things?
I'm doing better than Paulie, apparently. So,
yes.
But I'm doing okay.
All right. He asked me a question earlier in the show. I'll ask you the same question. He said, do you take anything away from the Virginia game? And I said just the way that they're kind of playing with a purpose right now, or still playing with a purpose, given that, maybe there's not a lot to play for from the outside looking in. That's the one thing I took away. What about you? You take anything away from the Virginia game or the way they've been playing of late in general?
Yeah, I think the last 5 or 6 games they've had double-digit leads, I think, in at least 5 straight games, something like that. And what I kind of take away from it is, I think obviously the way the season has gone is not what anyone wanted or expected or anything else. But, if you're trying to evaluate the job that a coach is doing, and there's plenty to be critical of, right? But I do think something that is on the positive side is that Red hasn't lost the locker room, because if he had, then I don't think they have double-digit leads in 5 straight games, and they wouldn't have won on senior day, beaten NC State in a game that was important to get to the postseason and all those things. So I do think it tells you a little bit of something as far as how Red connects with the players. And that's, I think, something you can take as a positive going into next season, barring, of course, some sort of, 30, 40-point loss in the ACC tournament, which, I don't think anyone is expecting at this point.
All right, the voting was due yesterday for all ACC teams, and the way it works, as you well know, you vote for 15, and then, first 5 go on the first team, second 5 go on the second team, third 5 go on the third team. Do you think Eddie Lampkin did enough to land on, in the top 15? You think he's like a third team all ACC selection this year, or do you think SU gets shut out?
I think you can make a strong argument for him. Now, I haven't done enough studying as far as how the other bigs in the conference are doing. I know from a defensive standpoint, certainly he's not going to have anything numbers-wise to get him up there, but one of the best double-double guys in the conference. I think probably the first guy on the scouting report when teams play against Syracuse is we got to try to limit that guy. He's had a bunch of huge games. So, yeah, I think it would be a worthy selection of him, sneaking into a third-team all-conference selection.
Do you think that we were talking about whether or not this team has found anything over the course of the last, 5 games or so, and, you mentioned the way they're playing and how hard they're playing, and I agree with that. From an X's and O's standpoint, do you think that they've figured anything out? Whether it's, the way that they pressured Virginia full court defensively, or, the way that it seems like they've made it more of a priority to get Jair Davis involved of late, and, they're feeding Lampkin in the post. Do you think they've figured anything out over the course of the last couple of weeks?
I think from an offensive standpoint, what they figured out is that their best option is to play through the post and play off of that, as opposed to trying to play through like JJ driving and dishing, for example. I think they're at their best when they're going through Lampkin and Davis in the post. They do have an advantage on most teams with their size and physicality from an offensive standpoint, because there aren't a lot of teams that play that way anymore. And so I think that does give Syracuse something that it can have as an advantage going into a lot of games. That's something I think they figured out, because there were stretches of the season where it seemed like they were shooting a lot of threes, and the number of threes that they've taken over the last couple of weeks has significantly decreased, and with that, the percentage has gone up a little bit. They're only taking it when they're really good looks, or obviously, late shot clock situations. But the fact that they've done that offensively, defensively, I think they are what they are from a defensive standpoint for the most part. But what I did see against Virginia is I saw better energy on that end of the floor more consistently throughout the game, as opposed to seeing it for, a 5 or 6 minute stretch against Pittsburgh and then almost non-existent the rest of the game, things like that.
Now,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
That's just kind of where I'm at with it. I think they're a flawed defensive team, but if they're giving consistent effort for the full 40 minutes, then they can make enough plays on that end to give themselves a chance to win.
Now, when you finish as the 14 seed, you're obviously going to have to pull some upsets if you're going to make a run. So I'm not suggesting that, that they're in a good spot at all. But if you could pick which part of the bracket to be in, you would much prefer to be in the bottom half and avoid Duke as long as you can. I was saying this to Paulie earlier, that of all the options that they could have faced, in this first round game, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, those kinds of teams, Florida State would have been probably my last choice, given that they don't match up great with them. But again, I mean, there's a path there that if they can, I feel like all these teams are kind of the same, right? So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the draw and whether or not you think Syracuse is capable anyway of making a little bit of noise.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought their best chance at trying to make a run was avoiding Duke as long as possible because, like you, basically from spot 5 through 14, 15, I think everyone is very beatable and everybody can beat everybody. When you start getting into, having to play Duke or even, Louisville, Clemson, when you're playing those teams, then I think, you're going to have to pull off a pretty substantial upset. Obviously, Duke more so than anyone else. But if you can win this first game and get a little bit of momentum, kind of going into the second round game, then really you never know. So that's kind of the biggest thing is they're matching up with SMU, I believe, if they win the first game. So yeah. That's a team that even though they didn't play their best and they certainly missed a lot of free throws, but Syracuse also let that one slip away. They outplayed them for a large stretch of that game, and I think would go into that saying, we know that we can play with these guys. So, yeah, there's an opportunity there that they could win a couple of games, and then if you do that, you just kind of see where you're at, and then at that point you're going to have to pull off a substantial upset. But I think all things considered, if they were to make a little bit of a run like that, get to the quarterfinals with a couple of wins, I think you'd feel like they represented themselves well, given the way the season has gone.
I asked Mike Waters this question kind of off air as we get ready for our TV show tonight, and I said, do you see a dark horse, outside of the top three? Because you mentioned, Duke and Clemson and Louisville. Is there a team outside of that top three that you could see making a legitimate run in this ACC tournament? And, his response to me was essentially, it's hard, right? It's hard to come up with somebody outside that top three that's good enough to make a run. I'll ask you the same question. Do you think there's a dark horse? Would you consider North Carolina a dark horse in this tournament? Or do you think it's really going to be a tournament that's dominated by those top 2 or 3 teams?
I think it's probably going to be dominated by those top 3 teams, but if I had to pick a team that could make a little bit of a surprise run, I think North Carolina is the one that's probably the most talented and able to do that. Everyone else has very significant flaws. Now, SMU does have a really good lead guard, and so can he get hot and they can get rolling? They got some size inside as well, potentially. But I think ultimately it's those top 3 teams are heads and shoulders above pretty much everyone else. But I could see a scenario where, because North Carolina does have a lot of talent on this team, that, you have a couple of guys like an RJ Davis and someone else, Withers, whoever it is, getting hot and potentially going on a run. I could see something like that happening, but I don't think it's set up where you could have, a 7, 8, 9, 10 seed similar to NC State last year making a run to the championship game without something absolutely crazy happening.
And with that being said, it leads nicely into my next question, which is, this Syracuse team is not going to win the ACC tournament. This is going to be over in the next few days. It might be over tomorrow night, might be a few days before it's over. But when it's over, the attention turns to the offseason. Any thoughts on guys they might target? And I know it's early and there's some, predicting involved in terms of who would be in the portal, but is there any thought from your standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, in the portal of guys they might be targeting?
I know the last time that we spoke, we made a comment about Jaleel Bethea from Miami, and he's not to say that that's a guy Syracuse is going to go after, but guys of his ilk, meaning very highly touted recruit, former McDonald's All-American, someone Syracuse did recruit out of high school. I understand that Jerry McNamara was the lead on him, but even still, and someone who's looking to leave their current situation, that's the type of thing that I would at least look at first, and then ultimately you look at positions of need, right? They could potentially be in the market for a point guard. So do they look at that guard from Lemoyne that announced he's going to be in the transfer portal? Is he someone that they look at? 6'2", 6'3" guard, good passer, good shooter from the outside, et cetera. But otherwise, names-wise, I don't specifically have names, but I do think point guard, big, and then depending on who else leaves, you could potentially be in the market for a big or a shooting guard potentially.
Speaking of recruiting and speaking of names, there was a very familiar name linked to Syracuse football over the weekend, right? Donovan McNabb Jr. Bring us up to date on football recruiting and anything that we need to be aware of from that area.
Yeah, he's a class of 2027 wide receiver. He also has several other power conference offers: Arizona, Iowa State, Minnesota. Arizona State's also after him. He plays his high school ball in Arizona, but he had a conversation with Coach Fran and picked up an offer, and he's extremely excited. Obviously, we know the connection with his dad who played here, but his mom also played on the women's basketball team, and his sister is currently on the women's basketball team. He said he's been to Syracuse a bunch of times because of all those family connections. So obviously you would figure Syracuse will be pretty heavily involved with his recruitment going forward. Otherwise, they're going to have visitors on campus over the next several weeks during spring ball, but we're really gearing up for what's going to be a pretty big summer for Syracuse football. They have, I think, somewhere between 6 and 8 4-star prospects that currently have official visits scheduled for the month of June, and then a bunch of other priority, highly rated 3-star prospects that are going to be visiting as well. So it's going to be a very busy summer for Fran Brown and the coaching staff. As they've currently got the 15th ranked recruiting class in 2026. And if they land, a decent amount of those 4-stars that are visiting, they've got a real good chance of having the first top 25 recruiting class in Syracuse football history, at least since the recruiting services have been around for the last 25 years or so.
All right, Mike, great stuff as always. We appreciate you coming on. Enjoy your week.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike McAllister from CuseNation.com joining us. With that, we'll hit a timeout. Phone lines back open until 1:30 at 315-437-7644. We will wrap up hour number 1 next on ESPN Radio.
Hey, this is former Syracuse basketball player Atan Thomas.
Last season.
Hey, guys. In the studio. You there, Bueller?
Hello.
So Steve's going to do that interview at 1:30. That will probably be my last segment. I will pack up and head to my other hotel.
Okay.
You have to stay on for at least the beginning of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't really do that whole thing and then have it be the Steve Infanti show.
Well,
I think Jay wants to apologize to you.
Oh, for God's sakes, I'm not allowed.
No, I think he does, actually. I think he does.
Is he aware that, should I have told him I'm the one who tweeted that and Paulie doesn't care in the least?
You can tell him if you want.
I didn't tweet it because Paulie should be offended. I tweeted it because I should be offended.
Yeah, I don't care at all.
Then if you want to let him know, he probably doesn't know that.
I'll tell him to apologize to me. It's
all
okay.
right, there you go.
Yeah, I don't care. I wish it was Steve Infanti's show. I would have to do this crap every day.
Yeah, right? I wish that people weren't eating fucking jelly on the keyboard, dude. I'm so mad.
You think they had Uncrustable?
Yeah, we have a spilled plant. We have jelly on the keyboard.
In here.
What is wrong with this
smells
place,
like
man?
whatever, like
it
that
smells like the nursery
soil.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like it smells like dirt.
It smells like the Walmart plant section.
It does.
Dirt and jelly, dude. Oh my god.
The fact that, well, at least whoever spilled the jelly tried to clean it up.
No, they didn't.
But
They're stuck in the S key. Look at this. It's all over the bottom.
I'm saying that's not an easy fix. That is unacceptable.
Neither of these things were Cody's fault.
How do we know that either one of those things, like, because whoever
I can tell you exactly who did both of them.
Looks out at the window at his car.
No, I can tell you exactly. I can tell you exactly who did both of these things. Like, I guarantee you.
Like
That doesn't go unnoticed.
that looks like somebody did that on purpose and was like trying to send a message or something. You know, like I'm gonna.
Even if it wasn't, you looked at it and went, nah, and then just left.
How could you leave? Right? How could you leave with it looking like that?
Yeah.
I'd feel terrible.
Yeah.
It's called being inconsiderate.
Whoever did that for real should be talked to.
Yeah.
All right.
We have a camera in here, right? Can't we see it?
I know who did it.
It's not.
You know for a fact?
Yes. But we know who did it.
I don't know for a fact. I know who did it.
Well,
and if I were to bring it up to anybody who could do anything, I would be fired. So.
There is a circumstantial case that is piled up against one plant spiller. He leaves fertilizer everywhere.
Can you text me who it is? I'm just curious.
You know who it is. It's not a hard
bike pistol.
Oh. But like, why can't something be said?
No, it will. I'll say something.
Bim Jheim Sublices.
Like, that's nonsense. That is like grammar school stuff.
Paulie, what song are we playing?
How about Making It by David Naughton? Naughton.
Naughton, but not?
Nothing going on here.
I love everybody typing the name in there as if I was making like like, holy crap, we figured it out.
Paul, you're talking cavalcade of cars here. You got that?
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, you can do whatever you want. We can go through our schedule for the week. You can talk about the.
What did this mean about if SU wins, they play at 7 tomorrow? They play at 7 tomorrow.
Do they not?
No, they play at 9:30 if they win.
PM?
Yeah. On Wednesday, you're saying? Yeah, they play at 9:30.
Oh, they aired something incorrect on the ACC network then.
Yeah, it's 7.
Just so you guys know, if SU wins tomorrow, I quit. just gonna make you aware of that. Like, that's absolute crap that this has to keep happening.
Then we're gonna stick some overtime game. Making it. Syracuse is making it to the ACC tournament this year. Congratulations. You weren't one of the first schools to be humiliated by your conference and left out. Jerry McNamara's Siena also snuck their way into their tournament. Steve, did you see that?
I did. I showed highlights that night on News Channel 9. Gavin Doty, the Fulton kid, came up big down the stretch. Peter Carey had a big bucket down the stretch of that game to lock up a bid. So, they're hovering right around 500. They, have obviously won, 3 times as many games as the program won last year. So, yeah, they're off to the MAC Conference tournament. Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. Somebody said Jerry McNamara has been nominated for some Coach of the Year award for first-year head coaches. And I had to point out to him that Adrian Autry was also nominated for that last year. So it's
that's right.
It was for first year coaches. Do you know the cavalcade of cars is coming, Steve?
Yes, not at the horticulture building.
No, it's Center of Progress building. The Center of Progress building is where it will be. Cavalcade of Cars, CNY.com. ACC tournament coverage tomorrow on ESPN Radio will be just your normal day. I have us. Newhouse kids are on spring break, which I probably left in the log, Jordan. The Cody Mack show, and then Brian will do pregame from 6 to tip off at 7, and then postgame immediately after here. All of the Learfield coverage on TK99. Wednesday night, we unfortunately will have to do a broadcast, so we will not carry the ACC games as Syracuse beats Florida State. But then Thursday we'll have all the games. And if Syracuse is still playing, Brian Higgins will be here to do a show between sessions 1 and 2 of the ACC tournament on Thursday. That sounds
wow.
like
You guys have a plan in place if SU wins 2 games. That's all right. That's good.
Yeah, Jordan laughed at me when I did that. He goes, "Come on," and I go, "No, you got to be prepared.
I like it.
Wait, I'm confused. So if Syracuse is or isn't still playing, Brian Higgins will be live between games Thursday.
If they're out, we're just going to air the games and Brian gets a day off. If they're in, we'll do a show between sessions.
Go Brian.
Yeah, we don't care.
Do it for Brian.
Let's play 4. Because you're not beating Duke. There's no magical run with Duke waiting for you at the end for anybody.
You would have to hope that Duke gets knocked off by like Carolina or something.
Their bus crashes on the way to the arena. That's the only hope.
I want to have you discuss it next segment a bit, but did you see the odds for Duke to win the conference tournament?
What is it?
Minus
we can talk
2,000.
about it next segment, but it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like it. I was there this morning. I was like, oh, this might be a fun little bet. I looked at it, threw my phone, gave up, couldn't do it.
You gotta have Josh Allen money to make money. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Unless you want to bet on somebody else.
Yeah, that seemed like a pretty safe bet. All right, we will take a timeout. Hour number 1 in the books. We've got Jay Alter set to join us at 1:30. Hour number 2 kicks off after this on ESPN Radio.
The Sports Show with Cody.
Is Paul sad because of the AD? What's that mean? Sheesh. A fifth of Beethoven. That's a good one. Scratch of the week. Let's see if we got that. Well, yeah, we can do that. Why am I sad? Am I sad all of a sudden?
No, I don't think we have it.
That's
we might
a
have
banger,
Beethoven's fifth.
No, you know what's another good one? The Star Wars Miko is the name of the band. MECO.
Oh, can we play? Can we play? I have a Cantina Band remix that I like online. It's a vibe.
Well, there's a disco version that was a top 20 hit that we have in our computer. I'm guessing. We just played David Naughton. Listen to the damn show. Is the Star Wars Miko in there?
I don't know. You're asking so many things at once.
MECO.
That's what I have. What if I have other things to do?
Just enjoy a little jelly. Lick your finger.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm trying to get some peanut butter in this keyboard so it goes with the jelly. Like, why the hell do you need to eat it over the keyboard?
Who is the suspect? Who's the main suspect for that?
Wood chipper.
Same person. Okay.
Just instead of having popcorn,
I was going to say
spray.
Pat Locomotive. And I wouldn't call it the main suspect. I would say, like, I would argue that one's even more likely than Bike Pistol.
Why am I sad? I'm so confused. Why does everybody keep saying I'm sad?
Ryan, make a pic of him kicking plants. That's what. No, he can't do a show without opening the blinds. And I'm gonna stop. Oh! We did it! Jim Boeheim finally texted me back. We did it. Woo!
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'll be at the arena. Tell him if he wants to come sit with me. If he's there.
No, I'd prefer he actually does the interview.
Not the same.
If we tell him that, if I tell him that he wants to see, Whoa, what does this say today? What does this say? What? Huh? What? Okay, I just got a text that said tomorrow at 1, and then a following text that said today. I don't know what to do with this.
Ask which one.
Just say, yeah, we were planning on tomorrow. Is that still work? Tomorrow at 1? Does that work for you?
My puffy. All right, guys. I'm sad. I'm puffy. I'm emotionally beaten down by you guys today. Here, Steve, they're being mean to me.
You can handle it.
They're calling me puffy and sad. I'm sad and bloated. I am not that close to the camera. They've zoomed into me, guys.
All right, fellas. We have an impromptu Jim Boeheim interview coming now. Yeah.
Nice. I am not the Michelin Man. How rude. Is this better if I come way back here?
This is incredible. Oh gosh. Oh, what are we playing? Anita.
Ring my bell, Anita Ward. Famous Anitas.
Marks.
There's a funny one of those childish names that we were doing. Steve, we apparently have a special guest coming on. Is that correct?
We do, and let's get right to him. As we are pleased to be joined by the Hall of Famer Jim Boeheim. Coach, great to hear from you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I was going to text you back yesterday, and I typed the message out, but I didn't hit send. You know, you do that when you get old. You forget that stuff.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're glad you're able to join us.
What's everybody complaining to Paulie about today?
Yeah, Paulie, what's the complaint du jour?
Second half adjustments, and JJ Starling isn't as good as everybody thought he was. That seems to be the complaint du jour.
Well, let me go with JJ first. JJ is a really good player. His shooting has fallen off. I mean, he's getting to his shots. He just hasn't shot as well as he needs to. I think he's a first-team all-conference player when he shoots if he can improve his shooting. I think that's really the key. I think he was shooting the ball a little bit better early in the year, but he gets to the basket, he makes plays. I think his goal is let's get my shooting better. If I can get my shooting up to a reasonable level, I'm an all-conference player. That's what I think he is, without any question. And part of the late game situation is he hasn't been able to finish as he did early in the year. He finished some games. So I think that's been an issue. I just think generally overall, if you look at this team, they really could have or should have won their last 5 games. They've played well enough to win the last 5 games. Unfortunately, they didn't finish a couple that they could have won easily. But with everything that's happened this year, people discount that JJ missed a bunch of games and Donnie's been out really almost the whole conference season. They've come together now at the end and are playing good basketball. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't come together sooner. But their basketball right now, and particularly their offensive game, has been really good.
Yeah, and what does that tell you, Coach, about, and Paulie and I were talking about this at the beginning of the show, about the fact that there are plenty of examples out there of guys who quit on their coach or teams that wave the white flag. This team clearly has not. And I know they didn't win as many games as everybody wanted them to, but what does that tell you, the way that they've looked and played the last 5 to 7 games?
Well, they finished better than any of those teams in the league, really. I mean, they finished extremely well, and it would have been easy to not do that. They fought hard. They played hard all year, I think, and they've had issues. Their defense hasn't been able to come together, which is one of the problems when you put a new team together with guys that have never seen each other before. Defense takes a long time. I think that's why Tony Bennett is out of coaching. He could not put his defense together the way he wanted to under today's conditions, and it takes longer. Unfortunately for this team, the key injury to Donnie and JJ hurt, but it's a group that when you're in the portal, you're really looking at what somebody has done at a different level. And the question is, can they do that at this level? And I think the answer is it's not that easy to do. I think Eddie's had a good year. He's had almost a little better year than he had at Colorado last year. That's a high level. The other guys are coming up to a higher level of basketball. And if you look around the league, you look around the country, there's a lot of guys, more than 50% of the portal guys that transferred, they're not playing at the level that you would have hoped to, because that jump is too big. And if you really look at the way they're playing now, especially, I think all these guys would be good players in another year. Unfortunately, they don't have another year. But I think it's taken a little too long to adjust to the level that they're asked to play at in the ACC or in high Division I basketball. But they've fought through it. They worked hard. I watch them practice. They work hard every day in practice. They're trying to do what they're told. There's been a lot of talk about, well, they don't listen. Well, I think they listen. I think they just haven't been able to execute. I think that's been the main thing, particularly on the defensive end. They just have not been able to execute. Part of that is not having a rim protector. Part of it is just the individual defensive play has not been good enough. Remember, these transfer guys were more known for their offense than their defense.
Good question in our chat section that we want to get your thoughts on. I'm sure you heard Rick Pitino's comments about high school players. He essentially said, "I'm not recruiting high school players right now. I'm making my living in the portal." What do you make of those comments?
First of all, you have to take everything that Rick says with a little bit of a grain of salt. He has 3 high school guys signed already. So is he not taking those guys now? Of course he is.
Right.
But he is looking to get 2 or 3 transfer portal guys. You don't replace the guys he has at the top level, the players he has, with freshmen. That's not going to happen. You can't do that anymore. You can still have freshmen, but he'll get at least 3 or 4 transfer portal guys. And I just think that's the way it is. I think every year, ideally, you return 3 or 4 guys. You might have a freshman or 2, and then you have 2 or 3 transfer portal guys. That's pretty much kind of blueprint that you see around the country from just about every team. I mean, Duke has outstanding freshmen, but they have 2 or 3 transfer portal guys that are really, really good players and are making a big difference with their team. And if you look at all the top teams, Auburn, Tennessee's leading scorer is a transfer portal guy. I mean, you can go right down the list. every team in the country, their top guys, if you look at the top 20 players, some of their top guys are transfer portal guys. So you have to have a combination of transfer portal, maybe a couple freshmen, and then 2 or 3 returners to be a good team.
Coach, how important is retention on a team? And like Syracuse going into next year, if they can retain people, they'll have a senior at the 2, a senior at 3, and maybe a sophomore at the 4. How important is it to retain players?
That's important, very important. I mean, in a perfect world, you're going to retain J.J. Starling and Donnie. You're going to retain those 2 guys for sure. I like Peter. I think Peter can be a really good player at this level. I think those guys need to be retained. I think you have to work really hard to make sure those guys are there, and Elijah Moore or whoever else falls into that category. Chris Bell is one of the better shooters in the country. I mean, you keep 3 or 4 of those guys, and you have an outstanding group of freshmen that I think can contribute. They're probably not ready to be stars, but that's okay if they can contribute. And I think they could. I think Carmelo's son, I think Sadiq White, I think there's 2 or 3 of the freshmen that can contribute. I hear good things about the kid from Australia. So I think that those guys can contribute, but you obviously have to get a center in the portal and another guard, another good player in the backcourt, I think would be helpful. If you can retain those guys with those freshmen, I think the team would be in a really, really good position next year. You never know when you don't know. When Carmelo came in as a freshman and Jerry came in as a freshman, we were not picked in the top 25 preseason. So you didn't know until you get guys there and see how they fit together. I think Adrian's done a good job. I think it's been a tough year. Things haven't gone the way he would like, but I think he understands what needs to be done to take a step up next year. I think they'll do that. Period.
And Coach, one way to do that, and something that we've heard Adrian talk about it a lot, and others associated with the program, the addition of a GM and Alex Klein, and we're seeing this around the country and certainly around the conference. Teams bringing on GMs to help with the transfer portal stuff. Can you speak to how much of a difference you think that makes to have a person like that, on the staff, working year round on the portal and identifying guys and identifying talent?
All right, let me explain that. Florida State football had a GM 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
They went undefeated, right?
Yes.
They had a GM last year, too. How many games did they win?
Did not go well.
Yeah, I mean, a GM it's helpful.
Sure.
It's helpful, but it's not because you have a GM, you're going to be good. No, I mean, it's helpful. I think he knows what he's doing. I like him. He is working hard to find guys. Guys are there's transfer portal decisions made already before the transfer portal even opens. Guys know where they're going right now today,
right
before it even opens, and that's just the way it is. There's agents. Everybody has an agent. They're calling you. If you're the GM, I'll give you an example. I'm calling you. I'm the agent for X player. My guy's available. It's $800,000. What do you say?
Yeah.
And you go, well, that's a lot. I mean, there's not even an offer out there for $800,000. He's just saying that. Or you say, well, we've got $400,000. He says, well, that's not enough. So that's going on every day, and will go on every day until the transfer portal closes. It's not pretty. It's not anything anybody wants, but it is reality. It's unfortunate the game off the court is awful, and the game on the court is good. We've got a great tournament coming up. We have really good teams. We have 2 or 3, I think, great teams almost. And then we have a lot of really, really good teams that can beat the great teams, because the great teams they're not great. The very good teams are very good, but they're not unbeatable. So it'll be a great tournament, and it's unfortunate that the off the court is the way it is, and probably won't get fixed for it might be years before it gets fixed. I don't know if it ever will. You can't have free agency. Imagine if the NBA every year was free agency.
Right.
Every year.
Yeah.
The NBA is going to be free. No, the NBA people are too smart for that. They understand that. There's a salary cap. There's contracts. There's a union. There's everything. And that's once you monetize college sports the way it's monetized, you have to have all those things that the NBA and the NFL have. And, they don't want to get there, but if they don't get there, it'll be chaos. This lawsuit, if it gets settled, that only settles a little bit. There's still going to be lawsuits from people that don't get enough money or don't get money. And it's going to be messy for quite a while. You have to make the best of it. You have to get in there and try to find the best player you can find. And I know the guy that got the most money that I know of averaged 6 points a game this year at Kansas State. So there's no guarantees out there. And you have to be smart. You have to find the best possible guy you can find. I thought they did a great job last year looking at the guys they got. They all had great years where they were and looked like they would be able to translate. And they just haven't quite been able to.
Coach, when you mentioned the tournament, do you think that the tournament is still going to play out the way it used to with the transfer portal? Will there be Cinderellas anymore with the transfer portal? Will people losing their seniors? Those teams get good because they get old, but now they're losing their seniors to bigger programs.
Well, Drake hasn't. Some other schools haven't. There'll still be the Ivy League still is very capable of upsetting somebody. I think the Ivy League winner, particularly Yale, was very good this year. I think they could upset somebody. I think there'll still be upsets. Just remember that when those schools lose a player, they get a player from somebody just below them. So they use the transfer portal too. So, there's good players everywhere right now. There's teams that have potential everywhere. But what you do have, Paulie, the Mississippi States are getting in the tournament, and they can beat an Alabama. They could beat a Tennessee. That didn't happen before. So that depth in conferences now, you can have, Kansas is going to be a 6th, 7th, 8th seed in the NCAA tournament this year. They're still pretty good. Our league is different. We have 3 really good teams. I wouldn't be shocked to see 2 ACC teams go to the Sweet 16 and 1 go to the Final Four. I wouldn't even be surprised that 3 of our teams could go to the Sweet 16. I think Louisville, Clemson, and obviously Duke could be in the Sweet 16. We could have 3 teams in the Sweet 16, more than the SEC, who will have 10 or 11 or 12 teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
That could happen.
Yeah.
Clemson's really good. I like their team. Our league is not. Everybody else in our league has got to get better for the future.
One quick question on the ACC tournament itself. If I'm giving you Duke or the field, is it a no-brainer that you're taking Duke, or do you think that either Clemson or Louisville or maybe somebody else like Carolina can knock them off?
Well, Carolina couldn't beat them at home, so I don't think they're going to beat them. I don't think I like Louisville. I think that the coach there, I voted for him for Coach of the Year, even though really John Schreier should probably get it. He went 19-1. They really both should be Coach of the Year. And Bradburn, it's unusual, but I would say we almost have 3 guys that qualify for Coach of the Year. It's hard to pick one of them. But it's pretty easy to pick Player of the Year. We know that. But I just think that it would be hard to beat Duke in this tournament. I would be surprised unless somebody got hurt. I mean, I just don't see it. I just think they hung in there against North Carolina in the first half, and Cooper Flagg was out. Had foul trouble. I mean, he's a difference maker like we haven't seen, I don't think, in a long time. I mean, it's kind of like Grant Hill was at Duke. A guy that does everything: offense, defense, rebound, block shots. But no, I don't see Duke losing it. I mean, Clemson beat them. They could beat them. Clemson could beat them. I think they'd be the team, and the big guy's pretty good. He's difficult to play against. If he doesn't get in foul trouble, I think they could beat Duke.
All right. Well, it all gets started tomorrow in Charlotte. 7:00 tip for the Orange against Florida State. Coach, we always love having you on. Thanks so much for the time.
One last thing, is I was very happy the lacrosse team won yesterday. It was a great game, but they would have been firing Gary Gate today if it wasn't. I'm sure there have been calls. We don't decide who coaches at Syracuse by phone calls. You know that, right? They wanted me fired 25 years, 30 years ago. I mean, at least, when we went to NIT one year. So, they didn't do that, and it turned out all right.
It did turn out all right. Better than all right. Coach, thanks again for the time. Be well, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Absolutely. Take it easy, buddy.
All right, Hall of Famer Jim Boeheim joining us here on the show. And with that, we'll hit a timeout. We've got Jay Alter set to join us here in about 10 minutes. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
Syracuse basketball head coach Adrian.
This time do Miko.
Is that in the system?
Should be.
What is it? MECO?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It's a disco version of the Cantina song. It's a banger. I think I pulled my hamstring sitting.
Oh, is Twitter working again? Oh, it hurts. It hurts.
It blew up like one of those SpaceX ships.
Wait.
Topical. Jordan, entertain the masses.
Everybody's leaving. Okay. His name's Steve. The other guy's name is unimportant. It's the Steve Infanti Show. It's time for the Steve Infanti Show, starring Steve Infanti. It's the Steve Infanti Show. Okay. We'll get him another time. I'm sure we'll try to get Jim on over the summer and talk more about that, but we only got so much time with the tournament coming up. Over the summer probably makes more sense too, because that's when he'll be doing stuff. Afternoon, Kev.
Oh, I'm knotted up in my own cables here.
I gotta make sure that I'm good enough to be on that show.
The Steve Infanti Show?
Yeah. I just came up with the theme song.
I'm
really
not
good.
funny. I'm so boring.
I don't know about predictions tonight. Was it T-Takes who said that?
I collect rocks. Went to the
steel cage match is going to be fun. Oh, dude, I literally had to walk out of the room because I thought of Blow More and I couldn't keep it in. I had to leave the room.
Anita tagging me.
I literally had to bail out of the room because I couldn't sit down anymore. Oh.
Yeah, our third president, Blowmore Johnson.
Dude, I couldn't do it. Oh gosh. Steve probably heard me. I was cracking up over here, and
I was wondering what was going on.
and I had to leave. That was it. I thought of how funny Blowmore was, and I had to go out there and take a walk.
That was a great moment in Orange Nation history.
It really was.
Blowmore Johnson. It was even worse than Blowmore Johnson. It was more comics. You're not even trying.
Again, what's funny isn't the name. It's funny that
Blowmore isn't a
coming
name.
up with like legitimate fake names, and he just tries to pass that one by.
Crowbar Blowmore.
I think we're just gonna have to go in and out.
I'll take.
Quick.
Yeah,
I think Jay's hopping on VMix now.
Am I sticking around, or am I?
Yes.
Can I go?
If you're okay with that, I think you should. Paul.
We're not gonna do a long segment. We'll probably just go in and out. Oh yeah, no, I think he's logging on VMix. Oh yeah. I don't know if I wrote it. He's trying to log on. He should be on. No, I'm not okay, Florida guy. I'm sorry.
I hope he's not listening to us talk about Blowmore Johnson, the greatest president ever. One of our founding fathers.
Infanti show.
I collect rocks, went to the school of hard knocks.
Armosaurus, I'm not letting that one through. You got to type it right.
We can hear you.
It's Mythic Hook. Oh, we're playing Star Wars. We can just. There's nothing we can do, unfortunately. You're just gonna have to fight through it, Paulie.
.com.
Are we doing the interview now?
No, we've got another quick. Okay, we've got a quick break.
All right, bye, Paulie.
All right, Jordan. So who is this?
Miko, I think. This is the Star Wars theme. This is kind of cool. Not only is this a disco version of the Star Wars theme, Steve, but it's today's business. It's brought to you by Grossman St. Amour, CPAs. You can find out more at gsacpas.com.
Want to rattle off a couple of quick ones here?
Take a time
if you
out.
want, I mean, like DK Metcalf got traded to the Steelers, or the Seahawks are in the middle of a fire sale. Paulie would have been good to hear from.
It would have been good to get his
that.
thoughts, being a Steeler fan. Yes.
What do you think about Garrett Cole getting recommended for Tommy John? I mean, the Yankees' season's over; it hasn't even started.
Yankees are in a lot of trouble. He's not the only injury, obviously, that they've got. They're already banged up before the season even starts. So yes, that is. I do think the division's wide open now. I mean, there was going to be some parity in that division anyway, but especially now.
Josh Allen's making a lot of money, eh?
He is. $250 million guaranteed. I'm glad they locked him up. And, we were talking about the fact that contracts aren't going to go down anytime soon. They always just continue to rise. This might end up being a good deal in a few years, right? I know they threw a lot of money at it. He deserves it. And for the Bills to lock him up, I think it's great for the franchise, great for the fan base, and great for the team. As long as you've got 17 back there, they're a Super Bowl contender.
Last thing for you. Steph Curry, the first active player to take a GM role, assistant GM at Davidson.
I can't imagine he's going to be putting too much work in. I feel like that's by name only, but
yeah, it's like when he was the executive producer on that show, Holy Moly. It's like he was in a couple episodes. You think he was in there grinding in the boardroom, planning out the holes and whatnot? No,
I don't. I think it's using his name to be like, hey, remember Steph went here? You should come here too. I think it's that kind of thing.
All right, Stephen Fani Show will be back in just a minute.
It's Orange Nation.
I was going through my social media over the weekend. Can you guys hear me now?
All right.
Yeah, we could hear you. Just we can't talk to one guest at a time. Jay, I know you can hear me. I don't know if you're on. We love you, and it's all love. And I just like busting balls, but no malintent or hard feelings. It's also funny. What's more funny is it makes Steve uncomfortable, and that's kind of the mission statement of this show.
Yes.
They are good at making me uncomfortable.
This show is like Fear Factor, but for Steve and social situations.
Like talking about songs with butts in them.
I kind of liked. I think we should do every Today's Business segment with that song under it. That was a good time.
I think we should do you know how like during all sporting games they do without the express written consent of Major League Baseball, and we should go, you cannot copyright the Steve Infanti show without the express written consent of Jordan Capozzi and Blowmore Johnson.
Stop. No, come on. What song are we playing, Paulie?
I don't care.
I need you to. I don't know disco one-hit wonders. I'm 28.
How about the Car Wash?
Disco Inferno a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, Car Wash is a better one, though, right? Disco Inferno's fine. I can't remember who sings that.
We're gonna make Paulie part of it. The Tramps, or just Tramps?
The Tramps, yes.
With 2 M's. Unless you just spelled it wrong in the system.
No, that's been in the system longer than I've been in the system.
About 2 minutes, Jay. Thank you so much. Oh, Disco Duck is really good.
That is trash.
What?
That's a trash song, dude. I don't mean to crush your childhood dreams, but that song is trash. Rick D's Disco Duck is awful.
No, it's not. Kev, let him know.
That will make your ears bleed. It's like listening to the Steve Infanti show. He collects rocks, talks about jocks. The Steve Infanti show. He once was an athlete.
It's all fun. Look, man, sometimes this is how you have to go out there and book an interview, okay? You gotta. It's like in wrestling. It's like a call out in wrestling.
Says no to smokes.
Cena couldn't lace up my boots, and then he walks out, and then you get the match.
Says no to smokes. Hates Paulie's jokes. It's a Steve Infanti show.
He's come up with an impressive amount of rhymes, I will say. He's like Dr. Seuss.
He follows the golden rule. His co-host is a fool. The Steve Infanti show. Everybody in the chat, rate your lyrics. We'll make a Steve Infanti show theme song.
To break, he likes to toss. Chicken parm without the sauce. It's the Steve Infanti show. You did. It looked good. It did look good. Chicken Infanti looked good. It looked just as good as you'd imagine chicken with cheese to look. All right, Jay, we're about to come back. Thank you for bearing with us. I apologize for the wait.
0.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com.
Disco Inferno on Disco One Hit Wonder Night, Steve, right? This day, Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive went #1. So we're celebrating right along with it with Disco One Hit Wonders. Have I told you what an honor it is
in the afternoon, dude? It's not disco night.
It's disco afternoon. But
anyway.
Go ahead, Paul.
It's such an honor to be on your show today. I just wanted to let you know that.
I knew that was coming at some point. As we welcome on our next guest, pleased to be joined by a Cuse grad himself, does play-by-play for ESPN, ACC Network. Every time I turn on the TV, I see and hear Jay Alter calling the game. He was very busy this past weekend. Women's lacrosse, men's basketball here in town. Jay, it's great to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. It's always a pleasure to be on the Steve Infanti show. And I had some fun looking at my social media mentions after trying to give you guys credit for what was a great interview with John Wildhack.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will say this: it's become kind of a running joke in the office this past week because there was, shall I say, another television station in town that didn't even try to give us proper attribution for the quote and for the interview. So the fact that you tried on the fly, I tried to explain to Paulie what happened. We do very much appreciate that.
Yeah, so let me explain to Paulie what happened. And what makes great irony is if you know where the TV broadcast sits, I'm looking at Paulie as I'm right across the court, who's over with the home local call with Matt Park. So I'm looking at our graphic and I'm like, oh man, I know that came from your show because I watched your show to prep for the game and I wanted to hear what John Wildhack had to say. So I'm like, I got to give some attribution for it. So I'm thinking, okay, I've been on the show plenty of times. I'm trying to remember Orange Nation. I should have known, but I just go, oh, it's the Steve Infanti show here in Syracuse. So that's the story. You know, when you're doing live radio or live TV, stuff comes out of your mouth. So thanks for being good sports about it.
Steve Perry's
I loved it for one. So no, I loved it, Jay, and no, I appreciate you trying to on the spot come up with something, and we do appreciate it. But it was a great broadcast that you did as usual, and let's talk about the game. And this team has obviously had its fair share of disappointment this year and a lot of adversity. What do you make of the way that they're playing right now? And as they go into the ACC tournament with some momentum, I know it's not going to matter, big picture, but the team you saw on the floor on Saturday, what did you make of what you saw?
So when you get ready to do a game, you watch a handful of games before, and I felt like Syracuse has been playing better than their record. I can't lie to you and say I've watched every Syracuse game this year, but I would say from the Carolina game on, Carolina, Pitt, NC State, SMU, Virginia Tech, I'm watching those games and I go, yeah, I mean, it's not a top 25 team, but they're way better than below 500 and down in the ACC. So I think they're improving. I think they haven't quit. I mean, you certainly couldn't accuse that team of quitting. So let's see what team shows up in the Dome. And I thought that was their best game, even better than all those games. And they put it together and they closed out. So again, I know that's not going to make this season any better for Syracuse fans, but I do think there's something to be said when you take a look at the players and the coaching staffs that they've improved as the season's gone on. They haven't thrown in the towel. And would it shock anybody if they play like they did on Saturday night against Virginia, if they go down to the ACC tournament and win 2 games?
Probably. I think it would surprise some people. But I hear what you're saying.
My question is,
go ahead.
Am I crazy to think as I was watching the SMU game and even the UNC game, going back to that, Virginia Tech where they lose in overtime, like it didn't look like a bad team. It didn't look like a team with the record of 12-18.
Right. And listen, I'm with you. And I laid that out at the beginning of the show that I was saying, listen, they don't have to play Duke and everybody's kind of the same in this conference, 5 through 15 or 6 through 15. And so, no, I don't think it would shock me or Paulie. I think a lot of the people who listen to this show, based on the comments we get, it would shock them if they won a couple of games in a row. Because that's been the biggest issue is their consistency that, in spots, they'll look like, okay, they're turning the corner and then, ultimately they can't close out games where they have double-digit leads, but they did do that on Saturday. This thing's all going to be over in the next couple of days for Syracuse. It might be tomorrow, it might be the day after. As you look ahead to the offseason, Jay, what do you think is SU's biggest need as they go into the offseason in the portal, as they try to round out their roster for next year?
Yeah, for me, it's a point guard. I think J.J. Starling would be better with kind of playing off the ball more, with the ball not needing to be in his hands all the time. When he was at Notre Dame, I thought he was a really good slasher. You can't really do that when you're kind of the only ball handler or the most reliable ball handler. So I think they need to prioritize a point guard. I think they need to go into the portal, not be afraid to spend money because it's such a valuable position, and really make a splash. I think when you look at the freshman class they're bringing in, having a reliable veteran point guard, and I'll give you an example. Look at what Louisville did with Chucky Hepburn. I don't know if there's going to be a Chucky Hepburn type player in the portal, but if there is, throw every dollar you have at him, because look at what an elite veteran point guard has done at Louisville. So for me, it would be that type of player. I think you obviously have to add a big as well, but for me, it all starts and ends with, can they bring in a legitimate veteran tested point guard that, even SMU, like bringing in a Boopy Miller from Wake Forest, I think was part of the reason they had so much success.
I asked Jim Boeheim this question. I'll ask it to you. With the ACC tournament coming up here, you taking Duke or the field?
I will take the field, and I do think Duke can win the national championship, but I don't know if they'll win the ACC championship, and that's because I think Louisville and Clemson are that good. I think I've had both of them a lot this season, and I think Clemson, to me, is most equipped for tournament play, of a veteran team that's been there before. Chase Hunter is so good. Ian Shefflin's a beast. Like, I think Clemson's got all the pieces, and I don't think it was a fluke that they beat Duke in the regular season. So if that's the matchup again, I'll take the field, and I guess I'll take the field because I think I got Clemson or Louisville. Either one, I think, would have a point to prove after losing the regular season by a single game.
Yeah, Clemson is one of the exceptions to the rule right now. All these teams going into the portal, and Clemson, you've got their key players for the most part have all been guys that have come up through the system there, which is something that you don't see all that often. Let's move on to lacrosse while we got you. And, the SU men picking up a huge win yesterday over Hopkins. What do you make of this team? They came in as preseason number 2. They lost a couple of games early, but it's still early. It's still early March. What do you make of the Orange and Gary Gates squad?
I do think the preseason ranking hurt them, Steve. I think they kind of believed, okay, we are the number 2 team in the country a little bit. And so when they had that adversity, it was unexpected. That was a big win. Not because if they lost, the season would be over, but they needed to prove that they could win a marquee game, which they had yet to do. They had won the games they were supposed to win, and in the 2 games, Maryland and Harvard, that were against top 20 teams, they lost. So they needed to prove that they could put it together against big competition. That said, they're going to need to repeat that performance a bunch of times because it's a gauntlet of the season that they still have remaining. Virginia's not having their best season, but they're still a tough out. You've got the entire ACC left, Duke, Notre Dame, Carolina, all playing very well. You got Cornell, which is a top 5 team. So this is a team that's going to be tested. It's can they improve upon that Hopkins performance? Yes, they did enough to get it done, but I would say it was a gritty performance, particularly offensively. At times, they really struggled to score, and then they strung it together in the end of the third quarter there. But I think they're a team that's going to need to continue to improve throughout the season, but it was a very valuable win because if you lost that one, you put yourself in a very difficult spot.
Going back to hoops for a second, we talk about how big of a year next year is for Adrian Autry. When you look at this men's lacrosse team and the expectations they had coming in and the fact that they have this lengthy drought of not making it to the Final Four, and, Joey Spallina's class is now juniors, they're healthy. It seems like they got the talent. I guess my question is, how big of a year is this for Gary Gate and for the program?
I think Gary would tell you he knows that he's got to get to a Final Four, that he brought in this class, and the reason he took the job was to get Syracuse back to the Final Four and championship weekend and competing for national championships. So nobody would be more disappointed than Gary if they don't end playing for a championship on Memorial Day. And I do feel like this team can still get there. I just don't think they were number 2 preseason. I would probably put them at 5 or 6. And that said, it's going to be the team that improves from now until May that ends up winning it. And I still think that can be Syracuse, but there needs to be significant strides even after that win against Hopkins.
I want to touch on the women's team. You mentioned, 5 or 6 might have been, more along the lines of where Gary Gates' squad should have been ranked. That is right where Kayla Trainor's squad was ranked to start the season, right about that top 5. And we see with the women's game, there is not as much parity as the men's game. And there's, whereas the men's game, you could probably point to, 12 to 15 teams that legitimately could make a Final Four. With the women's game, it's not quite the same. My question there is, would you put Syracuse, the SU women, in that tier of teams that are truly national title contenders, or do you think they are just kind of one notch below the true elite teams in the country right now?
If I'm being completely honest with you, Steve, I do feel like 2 teams have kind of separated on the women's side this season, and it's Boston College and North Carolina. Now, that is subject to change as teams improve, but as we sit here today on March 10th, it is North Carolina and Boston College kind of alone in that tier. And I've had Northwestern this season. Usually they're in that tier. They're sitting at number 3 in the polls, but I do think this season I would put Syracuse in the tier with Northwestern and Maryland and Yale, kind of as tier 2. But tier 1, I would say, is North Carolina and Boston College. I would be shocked if that is not the national championship this season.
One last one on the SU women. No Olivia Adamson. Why the mystery around her, her sitting out, I guess, or not being available for this team? And I guess how much does her absence affect what Kayla Trainor's trying to do this year?
Well, it's a huge absence. Let's start there. I mean, she's the best player on the team if healthy. So I think that is, if Olivia Adamson, going back to your previous question, if Olivia Adamson was healthy and playing, I might put Syracuse in that tier with Boston College and North Carolina. But without her, I think, again, they drop a tier below. In terms of the mystery, it's interesting because I had the game right after North Carolina that she missed when they played Northwestern. And I asked, like you would, Steve, like you would for any player, what's the deal? And we were given no answer, which is interesting just because if it were just a regular injury, wouldn't you just say she's injured? Which I do believe there is an injury. I'm not going to incriminate myself or speculate. That's not fair to the program, and that's not fair to the player. But it does seem interesting that obviously now since I've done that game, they came out with a statement saying she's out for the season. But before that statement came out, we were left in the dark for that Northwestern game, which you never want to have that cloud of mystery. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's certainly a huge loss, as you pointed out. Best player on the team and no longer available for the rest of the season. We are out of time, Jay. Where are you heading next? Like I said, you have a very aggressive schedule. I feel like you're calling games all the time. What's your next assignment?
I'm glad you brought this up. So I just finished lunch with Rick Beardsley at Utica Pizza Company. He said to get that in there. So I'm glad I got that in there for Rick. And then I'm headed back to the Dome because the Cuse women are playing Hopkins at 4 o'clock on ESPNU. So I'm still in Syracuse.
Nice.
And then after that, I've got the MAC tournament for Champ Week on the men's side. That's the MAC with 2 A's down in Atlantic City. Back on the hoops.
The Jerry McNamara. The Jerry McNamara MAC. The MAC.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about this, Jerry? Jerry could make another run. He's in that 8-9 game, and they'd have to upset Quinnipiac, the 1 seed, but you never know what can happen.
All right. And for those wondering, anytime we have a former Cuse student on, I always say, it's a part of my coaching tree. You are a part of the Infanti coaching tree, but you are not a part of mine. You are a part of my wife's coaching tree. So
that is true.
You were in her class way back when. She said to make sure that I say hello to you. So hello from Kim.
Wait,
Kim is the best, and yes, I had her my freshman year, huge influence on me, and I feel bad. Usually when I get to Syracuse, I try and see her, but I had to settle for coming on the Steve Infanti show instead.
Hold on, Steve. First of all, Jay, I'm the jerk who sent the tweet. All fun. We appreciate you. Second of all, when Rick Beardsley eating gets mentioned on the show, we need to know exactly what he ordered for lunch. We give away tickets by playing What Did Rick Beardsley Have for Lunch, so we need to know.
Okay, 2 orders of fried meatballs and then a sausage and pepper. So he went pretty heavy. He went aggressive.
That sounds very Rick Beardsley-like. All right, Jay, great to have you on. We love chatting with you. Be well, and I'm sure we'll continued success. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Paulie, and I appreciate you being a good sport about the other night. So thanks, guys.
No, great stuff, Jay. Jay Alter joining us here on the show. And with that, we'll take our final time out. We'll wrap things up next on ESPN Radio.
This is Orange.
Right. You guys want to handle the vote without me? Just we'll do regular bumps tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah, if you got to go, that's fine.
Yeah, I got to pack up.
We can do whatever.
I got to pack up because I got to get out of here at right at 2.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Paulie.
See you, Paul. Now I feel bad because Jay keeps saying we're being good sports, and it's like he didn't like now I feel bad. How do you not ask what Rick Beardsley ate?
Because we were running out of time.
There's no new house. Who cares?
I wanted to get the Kim reference in. And so.
we need to know what Rick Beardsley had for lunch. 2 orders of fried meatballs. Yep. I'm being ditched again. Hello. I would just throw them all on there, yeah, especially being on video. Yeah. Once I'm done, I'll go out there and start doing stuff. Then we just have an hour. I might go somewhere and get food and or coffee.
Looking at the menu, right? I think Rick had like a $50 lunch.
$50 lunch?
Those are $15 an order.
How sticky are your... What am I having for lunch? I don't know. I might go... I might just run to Dunkin' and get, like, coffee. I did think that was funny. So I will be honest, my first reaction to that photo was, wow, this might actually get me fired. But also, no, it won't. And also, I don't care. And, but then I was like, this is really funny how he's peering in between the peanut butter and the jelly. Have you seen it? Come look, he made a Photoshop of, but he got the wrong crime. He did the wrong crime for the Photoshop. Isn't it great? Hold on. I'm going to find it. Damn it. Twitter's messing up. Oh, okay. It is a good one. He looks so happy to be spilling peanut butter and jelly all over. Oh. Did you see the message in the chat? Jay could hear us. Paulie says he asked who blow more Johnson. Oh man. Thanks, Armosaurus. I'm trying to get Colleen for tomorrow. But I also figure we can do a good amount of ACC tournament stuff. Oh man. No Newhouse afternoon. But if you're looking for something to do for the next hour, go on YouTube and watch today's Atan and Devo. They talked about Rick Pitino, and they talked about LeBron and Stephen A. beefing. Talked to the ACC tournament. Talked about the senior night game. Kev, I'm playing Disco Duck. Oh, God. I don't know if I like it, actually. That was an aggressive noise. Is there anybody you want to be artist of the day, Steve?
Oh, I don't care.
Like, it doesn't have to be a good reason. We can be like, on the day before this day in 2025, this person was mentioned as a potential artist of the day on Orange Nation. Actually, you know what? It's the Steve Infanti show. Just choose. Just choose one.
Used.com.
Players Only, presented by Point Guard Advisors, a show about high school sports by high school
keep saying we're out of
Sundays 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on ESPN Radio Syracuse. Watch your favorite ESPN
Disco Duck ends Disco Day on Orange Nation. Reminder, no Newhouse afternoons today. They're on spring break. Cody will be here at 3. Brian Higgins at 4 p.m. We'll be back to do it all again tomorrow.
All right. I mean, you said it all. It's game day tomorrow. Could be the final game of the season. We'll see. 7 o'clock tip between Syracuse, Florida State. We'll continue to break it down for you tomorrow. We're out of time. Enjoy the beautiful weather, everybody. We'll see you back here noon tomorrow.
It's so nice out, man. It's so nice out.